There comes a moment in every human life when the noise becomes unbearable. Not the noise outside, not the opinions, not the critics, not the headlines, the noise within, the endless negotiation between what you know you are capable of and what you have allowed yourself to become. Most people spend years standing at the edge of their potential, staring across the distance between where they are and where they dream of being. They call it reality. They call it being practical. They call it being responsible. But beneath those words is something far more dangerous. A quiet acceptance of limitation, a silent agreement with mediocrity, a hidden belief that failure is always waiting around the corner. And because they expect failure, they prepare for it. They build backup plans for dreams they have not even pursued. They create escape routes before they take the first step. They lower expectations before life has a chance to test them. Then they wonder why greatness never arrives. Understand this clearly. The human mind follows the instructions it is given. If you repeatedly tell yourself that failure is possible, your actions will begin searching for evidence to prove it. If you constantly prepare for defeat, your habits will unconsciously move in that direction. If you expect obstacles to stop you, every obstacle will appear larger than it truly is. But when a person reaches a point where they decide that failure is not an option, something extraordinary begins to happen. Their entire relationship with life changes. Their focus sharpens. Their energy concentrates. Their excuses disappear. Their creativity awakens because the mind that refuses to retreat starts discovering paths invisible to everyone else. History has always belonged to those people, not the most talented, not the most fortunate, not the most connected, the most committed, the ones who burned the ships. The ones who removed the possibility of turning back, the ones who looked at uncertainty and decided to move forward anyway. Every great achievement began with a decision long before it became a reality. Before the wealth existed, before the business existed, before the transformation existed, someone made a declaration inside themselves. A declaration so powerful that circumstances were forced to adjust around it. That declaration sounded like this: I will find a way. Not I will try. Not I hope. Not maybe. I will. That simple shift separates dreamers from builders. The dreamer waits for confidence. The builder creates confidence through action. The dreamer studies possibility. The builder commits to inevitability. The dreamer fears failure. The builder becomes so consumed with purpose that failure loses its power. You must understand that your life moves in the direction of your strongest convictions, not your wishes, not your intentions, your convictions. A wish is weak. A conviction is unstoppable. A wish says, it would be nice. A conviction says, this will happen. The difference appears subtle, but it changes everything, because conviction influences behavior. Behavior creates habits. Habits create results. Results create destiny. Every extraordinary life begins as an extraordinary belief. The world teaches people to think small. Protect yourself. Stay comfortable. Avoid risk. Play it safe. Yet nothing remarkable has ever emerged from a life dedicated to safety. The greatest tragedy is not failure. The greatest tragedy is dying with your potential still trapped inside you. Imagine standing at the end of your life and meeting the person you could have become. The strongest version, the wealthiest version, the wisest version, the most courageous version, and realizing you never gave that person a chance to exist. That is a pain deeper than failure. Because failure at least proves you fought. Failure proves you attempted something meaningful. Failure proves you entered the arena. Regret proves you never did. That is why the decision must happen now. Not tomorrow. Not next year. Not when conditions improve. Now. The moment you stop treating your goals as possibilities and start treating them as responsibilities, because success is rarely a matter of capability. It is usually a matter of commitment. The human spirit is far stronger than most people realize. You have survived challenges you once thought would destroy you. You have endured uncertainty, pain, disappointment, loss, yet you are still here, breathing, thinking, moving, growing. There is evidence throughout your entire life that you are stronger than your fears, but fear has a way of making people forget their own history. It magnifies obstacles while minimizing strengths. It whispers that you are not ready, not qualified, not capable, not enough. And every time you listen, your future shrinks. The most dangerous prison in existence has no bars. It exists entirely in the mind. Its walls are built from limiting beliefs. Its locks are made of doubt. Its guards are fear and hesitation. Millions spend their entire lives trapped there, never realizing the door was never locked. The moment you decide that failure is not an option, you begin breaking those chains. You stop asking whether you can. You start asking how, and that single question changes everything, because the mind responds differently. Instead of searching for reasons something cannot be done, it begins searching for solutions. Instead of focusing on obstacles, it focuses on opportunities. Instead of retreating, it advances. This is the power of clarity. A focused mind is a powerful mind. A divided mind is a weak one. Many people fail not because they lack intelligence, but because they scatter their energy. One day they want one thing, the next day they want another. One week they are motivated, the next week they are distracted. Their effort moves in circles instead of forward. Imagine sunlight touching a piece of paper. Nothing happens. But concentrate that same light through a magnifying glass and it becomes powerful enough to start a fire. Your attention works the same way. Concentrated focus creates results. Scattered focus creates frustration. When failure is not an option, concentration becomes natural, because there is no alternative destination competing for your attention. Every action begins serving a purpose. Every decision becomes aligned with a vision. Every sacrifice becomes meaningful. And that vision matters more than people realize. Before every skyscraper stood in steel and glass, it existed as an image in someone's mind. Before every invention changed the world, it existed as a thought. Before every fortune was earned, it existed as a possibility. Everything physical begins as something invisible. The imagination is not a toy. It is a blueprint factory. The future is built there first. That is why successful people protect their vision. They refuse to allow doubt, criticism, or temporary setbacks to contaminate it, because what you repeatedly picture eventually influences what you repeatedly do. And what you repeatedly do eventually becomes who you are. See yourself stronger. See yourself disciplined. See yourself succeeding. See yourself overcoming. See yourself becoming the person capable of carrying the future you desire, because your mind is always listening. Even when you think it is not, every thought plants a seed. Every belief waters it. Every action helps it grow. The question is not whether you are planting seeds. The question is what kind. Many people spend years watering fear, watering excuses, watering self-doubt. Then they are shocked when those things dominate their lives. Life often reflects what we repeatedly cultivate. If you want different results, plant different thoughts, feed different beliefs, strengthen different habits, and above all, protect your purpose. Purpose is the fuel that survives when motivation disappears. Motivation is emotional. Purpose is spiritual. Motivation rises and falls. Purpose remains. There will be mornings when you feel unstoppable, There will also be mornings when everything inside you wants to quit. Purpose carries you through both. Because purpose does not ask how you feel. Purpose asks what must be done. The strongest people are not always the most inspired. They are often the most committed. They show up regardless of mood, regardless of weather, regardless of circumstances. They understand that greatness is not created in moments of convenience. It is created in moments of resistance. Every time you act when you do not feel like acting, you strengthen something inside yourself. Every time you move forward despite uncertainty, you expand your capacity. Every time you refuse to surrender, you become more dangerous to the limitations that once controlled you. The world respects results, but results are always the visible expression of invisible discipline. Nobody sees the sacrifices. Nobody sees the early mornings. Nobody sees the private battles. They only see the outcome. Yet the outcome is merely the shadow cast by consistent effort. Discipline is the bridge between vision and reality. Without it, dreams remain fantasies. With it, dreams become plans, then actions, then achievements, then legacies. And the beautiful truth is that discipline is available to everyone. Not just the gifted, not just the fortunate, everyone. It is a choice repeated daily, a promise renewed each morning, a refusal to negotiate with weakness. Every great life is built one disciplined day at a time. The remarkable thing about discipline is that it transforms identity. At first you force yourself to take action. Then action becomes routine. Eventually, routine becomes character. And once something becomes part of your character, it no longer feels like effort. It feels like who you are. This is where most people misunderstand success. They believe successful individuals possess something special that others do not. Some secret advantage, some rare talent, some hidden gift. But if you study the lives of those who achieved extraordinary things, you will discover a pattern. They learned how to become the kind of person who could not be stopped by temporary discomfort. They developed emotional endurance. They stopped making decisions based on how they felt in the moment, because feelings change. Purpose does not. Emotions fluctuate. Vision does not. Circumstances shift. Commitment does not. When you begin acting as if failure is not an option, you stop treating discomfort as a signal to quit. You start treating it as evidence that growth is occurring. Think about how a diamond is formed. Not through comfort, through pressure. Think about how steel is strengthened. Not through ease, through fire. Think about how mountains are shaped, not through stillness, through relentless forces over time. Nature itself teaches the lesson repeatedly. Strength emerges through resistance. Power develops through challenge. Character is forged through adversity. Yet many people spend their lives attempting to avoid the very experiences capable of transforming them. They run from hardship, avoid responsibility, retreat from uncertainty, and in doing so, they unknowingly retreat from growth. Every obstacle contains a hidden opportunity. Every challenge carries a lesson. Every setback contains information. The problem is that most people focus so intensely on the pain that they miss the gift. The entrepreneur sees a failed business and believes life is against them. The determined mind sees a failed business and gains experience competitors do not possess. The athlete sees defeat and feels embarrassed. The champion sees defeat and discovers weaknesses that can now be corrected. The dreamer sees rejection and loses confidence. The builder sees rejection and improves the approach. The event remains the same. The interpretation changes everything. That is why mindset is one of the most powerful forces available to a human being. You do not control every event. You do control the meaning you assign to those events. And meaning determines momentum. Two people can experience the exact same circumstance and emerge with completely different futures. One becomes bitter. The other becomes wiser. One quits. The other adapts. One sees proof that success is impossible. The other sees proof that improvement is necessary. The difference is not circumstance. The difference is perspective. A powerful perspective allows you to remain focused when others become distracted. It allows you to remain hopeful when others become discouraged. It allows you to remain committed when others surrender. This does not mean pretending challenges do not exist. It means refusing to give challenges authority over your destiny. Life will test you. That is not a possibility. It is a certainty. There will be moments when progress feels invisible. Moments when effort appears unrewarded. Moments when doors remain closed despite repeated attempts. Moments when exhaustion whispers that stopping would be easier. Those moments reveal something important. They reveal what you truly believe. Anyone can remain committed when conditions are favorable. Anyone can feel confident when results arrive quickly. Anyone can speak positively when everything is going according to plan. But when uncertainty enters the picture, conviction is exposed. The storms of life reveal the strength of your foundation. A weak foundation collapses under pressure. A strong foundation grows stronger through pressure. That foundation is built through belief, not wishful thinking, not blind optimism, genuine belief, the kind of belief that survives disappointment, the kind of belief that survives criticism, the kind of belief that survives delay. Because every meaningful dream encounters resistance. Every significant goal demands patience. Every worthwhile achievement requires persistence. Nature does not rush. The seed does not become a tree overnight. The river does not carve the canyon in a day. The sunrise does not appear instantly. Everything powerful develops through consistent progression. Yet modern life conditions people to expect immediate results, immediate gratification, immediate validation, immediate success. When those expectations are not met, many abandon the journey, not because the goal is impossible, because the timeline offended their impatience. But extraordinary achievements operate according to a different clock, a deeper clock, a slower clock, a clock that rewards endurance. Imagine planting a seed and digging it up every day to check whether it is growing. That would be absurd. Yet many people treat their dreams exactly that way. They take action for a short period, become impatient, doubt the process, abandon the effort, then wonder why nothing grew. Success requires faith, not religious faith alone. Faith in your vision, faith in your effort, faith in the invisible progress occurring beneath the surface. Because much of growth happens before visible results appear. Roots develop before branches emerge. Character develops before achievements appear. Identity transforms before circumstances change. The internal always precedes the external. The world eventually mirrors what happens within. If your internal world is filled with doubt, fear, and hesitation, those qualities eventually influence your outcomes. If your internal world is filled with conviction, purpose, and persistence, those qualities begin shaping your future. You become what you consistently practice. That is why your daily habits matter so much. A single action seems insignificant. One workout, one page, one call, 1 hour of focused work, one decision. Yet lives are not shaped by isolated moments. Lives are shaped by accumulated moments. The small things become the big things. The daily choices become lifelong realities. A single brick does not create a cathedral. Thousands of bricks placed consistently create one. A single drop of water does not shape stone. Millions of drops over time do. A single disciplined day may not transform your life, but repeated disciplined days absolutely will. This is the hidden power of consistency. It turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results. Most people underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 years because they are obsessed with what can happen in 5 days. They chase quick victories while neglecting lasting transformation. Yet transformation is where true power lives. Because when you change yourself, you change everything connected to you. Your standards change. Your decisions change. Your relationships change. Your opportunities change. Your future changes. Success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract through the person you become. The moment your character rises, your possibilities rise with it. This is why responsibility is so important. Responsibility is not a burden. It is power. The unwillingness to accept responsibility keeps people trapped. They blame circumstances, blame the economy, blame other people, blame bad luck, blame timing. And as long as blame exists, growth remains impossible, because blame gives away control. Responsibility reclaims it. The moment you say, "My future is my responsibility," everything changes. You stop waiting. You stop complaining. You stop making excuses. You begin building. You begin creating. You begin leading. Responsibility transforms victims into architects. Architects do not complain about the blueprint. They improve it. Architects do not curse the construction site. They build on it. Architects do not wait for perfect conditions. They work with what they have. Your life is under construction every single day. Every thought lays a brick. Every action raises a wall. Every habit shapes the structure. The question is whether you are building intentionally or accidentally. Many people drift through life. They allow circumstances to dictate direction. They react instead of create. They follow instead of lead. And years later, they find themselves living a life they never consciously designed. But the individual who acts as if failure is not an option takes a different path. They become deliberate, intentional, purposeful. They understand that destiny is not discovered, it is constructed, one decision at a time, one action at a time, one courageous step at a time. Courage is another quality often misunderstood. People imagine courage means feeling fearless. It does not. Courage means acting despite fear. Fear will always attempt to accompany meaningful growth. Fear appears when you start the business. Fear appears when you change careers. Fear appears when you pursue a dream. Fear appears when you step beyond familiar territory. Fear is not proof that you should stop. Fear is often proof that you are moving towards something important. The greatest opportunities frequently exist on the opposite side of uncertainty. Unfortunately, most people turn around before reaching them. They encounter discomfort and interpret it as danger. But growth and comfort rarely travel together. One requires expansion. The other requires remaining the same. You cannot become more while insisting on staying where you are. The future demands evolution. It demands courage. It demands movement. And movement creates momentum. Momentum is one of the most powerful forces in existence. A train sitting still requires enormous energy to begin moving. Once moving, far less energy is required to maintain progress. Your life works the same way. Starting is often the hardest part. Taking the first step, making the first call, writing the first page, launching the first project, entering the first challenge. That initial movement feels difficult because inertia is powerful. But once momentum develops, progress becomes easier. Confidence grows. Experience grows. Skill grows. Results begin appearing. This is why action is so important. Not perfect action, Action. Perfection has destroyed more dreams than failure ever could. Countless people spend years preparing, planning, researching, waiting, refining, adjusting. They convince themselves they are making progress. But preparation without execution eventually becomes procrastination disguised as productivity. The world belongs to those willing to move, those willing to learn while doing, those willing to make mistakes, those willing to improve in public. Because action produces clarity. Action produces feedback. Action produces growth. Thought alone cannot create transformation. At some point, the vision must leave the mind and enter reality. At some point, the idea must become behavior. At some point, desire must become movement. And once movement begins, possibility expands. New doors appear, new opportunities emerge, new connections form, new strengths reveal themselves. The path often becomes visible only after you start walking. Waiting for complete certainty before taking action is like waiting for daylight before lighting a torch. The torch creates the light. Action creates the clarity. And the people who achieve extraordinary things understand this principle deeply. They trust themselves enough to begin, not because they possess all the answers, because they trust their ability to find them. That trust is earned, not given, earned through repeated evidence, earned through keeping promises to yourself, earned through doing what you said you would do. Each time you honor your commitment, self-respect increases. Each time self-respect increases, confidence grows. Each time confidence grows, possibilities expand. This cycle becomes a powerful force. You begin seeing yourself differently, not as someone hoping for success, but as someone becoming capable of it. Capability changes everything. The moment you begin seeing yourself as capable, the world stops looking like a wall and starts looking like a field of possibilities. The opportunities that once appeared intimidating begin appearing attainable. The challenges that once seemed overwhelming begin appearing manageable. The goals that once felt distant begin feeling reachable. Not because the world changed, because you changed. One of the greatest revelations a person can experience is realizing that most limitations are learned. They are inherited from environments, repeated through habits, reinforced by fear, and accepted through repetition. A child does not enter the world believing they are incapable. They learn those beliefs. They absorb them. They hear what cannot be done. They witness what others refuse to attempt. They internalize the doubts of people who surrendered to their own. And over time, those limitations become invisible chains. Chains that feel so normal they are mistaken for reality. But reality is often far more flexible than people imagine. History is filled with individuals who shattered assumptions. People who accomplished what experts declared impossible. People who entered industries they knew nothing about and transformed them. People who rose from poverty to prosperity. People who overcame illness, rejection, discrimination, failure, and impossible odds. Every one of those stories carries the same lesson. Human potential is far greater than human fear. Fear attempts to convince you that the future will resemble the past. Vision reminds you that the future can be something entirely different. The past may explain where you are. It does not determine where you are going. Too many people allow previous disappointments to define future expectations. They failed once, so they assume they will fail again. They experienced rejection, so they expect more rejection. They encountered difficulty, so they anticipate defeat. But every day offers a new opportunity to write a different chapter. No matter what happened yesterday, today remains unwritten. The pages are blank. The pen is in your hand. And whether you realize it or not, you are constantly authoring your future through your choices. Every decision writes a sentence. Every habit writes a paragraph. Every year writes a chapter. Eventually, those chapters become a story. The question is whether you are consciously creating that story or unconsciously drifting through it. The most powerful people live deliberately. They refuse to become passive participants in their own lives. They understand that time is their most valuable asset, not money, not status, not possessions. Time. Money lost can be earned again. Opportunities lost can often return. But time moves in only one direction. Once a day is gone, it is gone forever. That realization should awaken something inside you, because life is not merely measured by years. Life is measured by how fully those years are used. There are people who live 90 years but only truly experience a fraction of that time. And there are people who live 40 years yet leave behind enough impact to influence generations. The difference is intentionality. Purpose gives weight to time. Without purpose, days blur together. Weeks disappear. Years vanish. Life becomes routine without meaning. But when purpose enters the picture, every day acquires significance. Every action gains direction. Every challenge becomes part of something larger. Purpose transforms existence into mission. And mission creates energy, not ordinary energy, a deeper energy, an energy that survives fatigue, an energy that persists through setbacks, an energy that refuses to disappear when circumstances become difficult. This is why the most successful individuals are rarely driven by money alone. Money may be part of the goal, but it is rarely the entire reason. They are driven by contribution, growth, impact, creation, legacy. They understand that fulfillment comes not merely from receiving, but from becoming. The world constantly encourages people to chase outcomes, the house, the car, the title, the recognition, yet outcomes alone rarely satisfy the soul. Because achievement without growth feels hollow. Achievement without meaning feels empty. Achievement without purpose feels temporary. The deepest fulfillment comes from becoming the kind of person capable of creating extraordinary outcomes. That transformation lasts. That transformation cannot be taken away. That transformation becomes part of who you are. When failure is not an option, growth becomes mandatory. You no longer have the luxury of remaining the same. You must improve. You must expand. You must evolve, because the future you desire demands a stronger version of you, a wiser version, a more disciplined version, a more courageous version, a more focused version. Every dream makes a demand. Every vision requires a price. Every destination asks a question. Who must you become to arrive there? That question changes everything. Most people focus entirely on external goals. Very few focus on internal development. Yet internal development is what determines whether external success can be sustained. A person may acquire wealth without wisdom and lose it. A person may acquire opportunity without discipline and waste it. A person may acquire influence without character and destroy it. The foundation always matters, and character is the ultimate foundation. Character is what remains when nobody is watching. It is the voice that speaks when applause disappears. It is the standard you maintain when shortcuts become available. It is the integrity that survives temptation. Character is not built in moments of ease. It is revealed in moments of pressure. When circumstances become difficult, character becomes visible. When opportunities to quit appear, character speaks. When excuses become available, character decides. This is why adversity can be such a powerful teacher. Adversity exposes weaknesses. It reveals blind spots. It identifies areas requiring growth. And while adversity is rarely comfortable, it is often necessary. The strongest trees endure the strongest winds. The deepest roots develop through resistance. The most resilient individuals are rarely those who avoided struggle. They are those who learned from it. Every challenge contains information. Every setback contains instruction. Every failure contains wisdom. The only true failure is refusing to learn. Life continuously provides lessons. The question is whether you remain teachable. Because arrogance stops growth. Complacency stops growth. Certainty stops growth. The moment a person believes they have nothing left to learn, they begin declining. Growth requires humility. The humility to admit mistakes. The humility to seek knowledge. The humility to improve. The humility to evolve. The most successful people in the world are often the most curious. They ask questions. They seek understanding. They remain students regardless of achievement because they know something powerful. The moment learning stops, progress slows. The world changes too quickly for stagnation. Industries change. Technology changes. Markets change. Opportunities change. And those who refuse to adapt eventually become trapped by their own rigidity. Adaptability is not weakness. Adaptability is strength. Water teaches this lesson beautifully. Water does not resist every obstacle. It flows around them, through them, over them. And over time, water shapes entire landscapes, not through force alone, through persistence and adaptability. Many people confuse stubbornness with determination. They are not the same. Determination remains committed to the destination. Adaptability remains flexible regarding the route. The destination matters. The path may change. When failure is not an option, creativity awakens. You stop asking whether a solution exists. You begin finding one. You stop obsessing over closed doors. You start searching for open windows. You stop complaining about obstacles. You start navigating around them. This mindset creates extraordinary resilience. Resilience is the ability to continue moving despite difficulty. Not because difficulty disappears, because your commitment becomes stronger than it. There will be seasons in life when progress feels slow. Seasons when effort seems unnoticed. Seasons when results lag behind expectations. Those seasons test patience. They test faith. They test perseverance. And many people abandon their dreams during those periods, not because success was impossible, because discomfort became intolerable. But remarkable things often happen just beyond the point where most people quit. A breakthrough may be one more attempt away. A solution may be one more effort away. A victory may be one more day away. You simply do not know, which is why persistence matters so much. Persistence is faith expressed through action. Persistence says, I will continue. Persistence says, I will find another way. Persistence says, temporary difficulty will not become permanent defeat. Every great achievement contains hidden chapters of persistence, chapters the public rarely sees. Moments when progress seemed impossible. Moments when quitting appeared reasonable. Moments when doubt attempted to take control. Yet the people who changed their lives refused to stop. And because they refused to stop, the story changed. That possibility exists for you as well. Right now, not someday, not after circumstances improve. Now, you possess more potential than you realize, more strength than you recognize, more resilience than you have tested, more creativity than you have explored, more courage than you have demonstrated. Most people live far beneath their capacity, not because they are incapable, because they underestimate themselves, because they negotiate with fear, because they surrender to uncertainty, because they seek permission instead of taking ownership. You do not need permission to pursue your purpose. You do not need permission to improve your life. You do not need permission to become stronger. You do not need permission to dream bigger. The only approval that ultimately matters is the approval you earn from yourself. The quiet confidence that comes from knowing you gave everything you had. The peace that comes from honoring your potential. The pride that comes from refusing to settle. At the end of life, very few people regret working toward a meaningful dream. Many regret abandoning one. Many regret waiting too long. Many regret allowing fear to make decisions on their behalf. Fear is a poor architect of destiny. It builds small lives, small visions, small ambitions, small possibilities. Purpose builds differently. Purpose expands. Purpose elevates. Purpose challenges. Purpose calls you toward the highest version of yourself. And that call never completely disappears. You can ignore it, delay it, drown it out with distractions, but somewhere beneath the noise, it remains, waiting, patiently reminding you that you were made for more. Not more possessions, not more status, more expression of your potential, more contribution, more courage, more growth, more impact. The voice of purpose is often quiet, but it is persistent. And when you finally listen to it, everything begins changing because you stop living according to fear. You start living according to possibility. You stop measuring yourself by past limitations. You start measuring yourself by future potential. You stop asking what is likely. You start asking what is possible. And possibility is where transformation begins. Possibility is a doorway that only opens for those willing to walk toward it. Most people stand at a distance. They admire it. They talk about it. They imagine what might exist beyond it. But they never step forward, because stepping forward requires commitment. It requires risk. It requires the willingness to leave behind the familiar version of yourself and move toward the unknown. And that is where transformation truly begins. Not when circumstances change, not when luck arrives, not when someone finally believes in you. Transformation begins when you decide that the person you have been is no longer enough for the future you want to create. That decision carries power, because once it is made, excuses begin losing their influence. The old stories begin losing their authority. The limitations that once felt permanent begin appearing temporary. You start realizing that many of the barriers in your life were never physical. They were psychological. They existed in assumptions, in fears, in doubts, in habits. And habits, no matter how deeply rooted, can be changed. Think about the force of a river. At first, it seems impossible that water could reshape stone. Stone appears permanent. Water appears soft. Yet, given enough time, persistence defeats resistance. The river does not stop because the mountain stands in its path. The river continues, day after day, season after season, year after year, and eventually the mountain changes. This is how greatness is built, not through one heroic effort, not through one perfect moment, through relentless continuation, through refusing to stop, through showing up again and again and again until reality has no choice but to respond. Many people overestimate intensity and underestimate consistency. They wait for the perfect surge of motivation, the perfect mood, the perfect circumstance, the perfect opportunity. But life does not reward those who wait for perfect conditions. Life rewards those who move despite imperfect conditions, because perfection is an illusion. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be obstacles. There will always be reasons to postpone action. The question is whether those reasons will control your future. You cannot build a remarkable life by consulting your fears before every decision. Fear will always advise caution. Fear will always suggest retreat. Fear will always recommend safety. But safety rarely creates significance. Safety rarely creates legacy. Safety rarely creates transformation. The greatest chapters of your life exist beyond the boundaries of comfort. That is where growth lives. That is where courage lives. That is where possibility lives. Every meaningful dream demands that you leave something behind. Old beliefs, old habits, old identities, old excuses. You cannot carry every limitation from your past into the future and expect your future to be different. Something must be released. Something must be surrendered. Something must be outgrown. Growth is not merely about adding. It is also about removing. Removing doubt, removing hesitation, removing self-imposed limitations, removing the habits that no longer serve the person you are becoming. Every day presents a choice. Feed the future or feed the past. Strengthen possibility or strengthen fear. Move forward or remain where you are. And while those choices may seem small in the moment, they compound over time. Years from now, your life will largely reflect the decisions you repeatedly made, the standards you repeatedly maintained, the thoughts you repeatedly entertained, the actions you repeatedly took. That truth is empowering because it means your future is not determined by a single event. It is determined by repeated choices, repeated discipline, repeated courage, repeated commitment. You do not have to transform your life in a day. You simply have to refuse to abandon the process. That refusal is where power lives, because there is something unstoppable about a human being who has made a final decision. Not a temporary decision, not an emotional decision, a final decision, the kind of decision that becomes part of identity. The kind of decision that survives disappointment. The kind of decision that remains standing when motivation disappears. The kind of decision that says, no matter how long it takes, I will continue. History belongs to those people. The inventors, the pioneers, the visionaries, the builders, the leaders, not because they were immune to fear, not because they avoided failure, not because they possessed magical advantages, because they remained committed after others stopped, because they stayed focused after others became distracted, because they continued believing after others surrendered. The world often celebrates the outcome while overlooking the commitment that created it. But commitment is where the real victory occurs, long before the achievement becomes visible, long before the recognition arrives, long before the results appear. The victory occurs in private. It occurs when nobody is watching. When the alarm rings and you get up anyway. When the work is difficult and you continue anyway. When the results are delayed and you persist anyway. When doubt appears and you move forward anyway. Those moments matter more than most people realize, because those moments shape identity, and identity shapes destiny. Every action is casting a vote for who you are becoming, a vote for the future you are creating, a vote for the standards you will accept. The question is simple. What are your actions voting for? Are they voting for excuses or responsibility? Are they voting for fear or courage? Are they voting for limitation or possibility? Your future is listening to every answer. The remarkable thing about human potential is that it expands when challenged. Most people have no idea how strong they are because they have never required strength from themselves. They have never demanded more. They have never pushed beyond familiar boundaries. They have never discovered what lies on the other side of perceived limits. Yet history repeatedly proves that limits are often far beyond where people imagine them to be. The mind says stop long before the spirit is finished. Fear says quit long before possibility disappears. Comfort says enough long before greatness has been reached. That is why self-mastery matters, because the greatest battle is rarely external. It is internal. The battle between discipline and distraction. The battle between courage and fear. The battle between vision and doubt. The battle between the person you are and the person you are capable of becoming. Win that battle and the external world begins changing as a consequence. Lose that battle and even favorable circumstances may not save you. Everything begins within. Every achievement, every breakthrough, every transformation. The external world eventually reflects the internal one. A disciplined mind creates disciplined actions. A focused mind creates focused effort. A resilient mind creates resilient behavior. A grateful mind creates abundant perspective. Gratitude is often overlooked in conversations about success. Yet gratitude possesses enormous power, not because it ignores challenges, because it prevents challenges from becoming your entire focus. Gratitude reminds you of your strengths, your opportunities, your progress, your growth, your blessings. And a person who can recognize value in the present develops the emotional strength to pursue greater value in the future. Gratitude and ambition are not enemies. They are partners. One appreciates what exists. The other creates what can be. Together they create a powerful state of mind. A state where you remain hungry without becoming desperate, driven without becoming consumed, focused without becoming blind, balanced without becoming passive. This balance matters because success is not simply about reaching a destination. It is about becoming someone capable of carrying success wisely. The world is filled with people who achieved goals but never achieved fulfillment. People who gained possessions but lost purpose. People who accumulated wealth but neglected growth. People who built careers but forgot to build themselves. True success is larger than achievement. It includes character, contribution, integrity, purpose, growth, impact. These qualities create a life that matters, a life that leaves something valuable behind, because ultimately your legacy is not determined by what you collected. It is determined by what you contributed, by the lives you influenced, by the courage you demonstrated, by the example you set, by the potential you fulfilled. One day, every opportunity you currently possess will become memory. Every sunrise, every challenge, every possibility, every conversation, every dream, time will continue moving. The question is whether you will move with it, whether you will rise to meet the opportunity hidden inside this moment, because this moment matters. Not yesterday, not tomorrow. This moment, this decision, this opportunity, this choice. Right now, there is a version of you waiting to emerge. A stronger version, a wiser version, a more disciplined version, a more courageous version, a version capable of achieving things that today seem distant. That version is not created by luck. That version is created by repeated action, repeated belief, repeated commitment, repeated growth. The distance between who you are and who you can become is crossed one step at a time, one disciplined day at a time, one courageous decision at a time, one promise kept at a time, and every step matters. Even the small ones, especially the small ones. Because greatness is never built all at once. It is built quietly, patiently, consistently, until one day the invisible becomes visible. The effort becomes achievement. The vision becomes reality. The possibility becomes proof. And when that day arrives, you will understand something that changes everything. The goal was never merely the achievement. The goal was the transformation. The person you became while pursuing it, the strength you developed, the wisdom you gained, the character you forged, the resilience you earned. That is the true reward. That is the treasure hidden inside every meaningful pursuit. And that is why you must stop negotiating with your potential. Stop asking whether you are ready. Stop waiting for certainty. Stop seeking permission. Stop allowing fear to cast votes in decisions that belong to purpose. Make the decision. Make it completely. Make it finally. Draw a line between the life you have tolerated and the life you are committed to creating. Then defend that decision with action. Defend it with discipline. Defend it with consistency. Defend it with courage. Wake up each morning with the understanding that your future is being shaped by what you do today. Stand up when others sit down. Continue when others quit. Believe when others doubt. Persist when others retreat. And keep moving forward with the unwavering conviction that the dream placed within you was not placed there by accident. It was placed there as an invitation to grow, an invitation to lead, an invitation to become, an invitation to discover what is possible when commitment becomes absolute. So walk forward with certainty, walk forward with purpose, walk forward with faith in your ability to adapt, learn, endure, and overcome. Walk forward knowing that obstacles are temporary, but character is lasting. Walk forward knowing that setbacks are lessons, but persistence is power. Walk forward knowing that every challenge contains an opportunity for growth. Walk forward knowing that your greatest days do not exist behind you. They exist ahead of you, and from this moment forward, carry one belief so deeply into your heart that it becomes part of your identity, part of your actions, and part of your destiny. Act as if failure is not an option, not because the road will be easy, not because obstacles will disappear, not because uncertainty will vanish, but because your commitment will be stronger than all of them. And when commitment becomes stronger than fear, stronger than doubt, stronger than difficulty, and stronger than every excuse that once held you back, there is only one direction left to travel: forward.